you guys are messing around. You've taken ages to choose your new leader. You're going to get a couple of weeks into it, and as she quite rightly points out, off you go again. Conference period. There's work to be done.
I wouldn't have got rid of Boris in the first place, so I wouldn't have had a leadership election. But since we have a leadership election, I think it goes on too long. And I thought exactly the same in 2019 when we had a leadership election between Boris and Jeremy Hunt that went on too long. This is actually shorter than then, believe it or not. But it has gone too long, and I think it's got to be rethought. I think it's good, though, to have leading political figures actually engage in arguing largely about policies, because what we've seen happen to politics in the last few years is the importation of the sort of anti-Trump methods from the Democrats in America, where everything has been turned into a question of personalities. It's all about you're a liar, you're a morally worthless person, and so on. Those attacks have gone on relentlessly, specifically against Boris, but other people as well. And people are and I think that puts a lot of people off, and they actually want to hear politicians talk about policies and what they're going to do. As for the recess, I think it's 3 weeks, the recess, not 4.5. But
I think if you do the SNP, all.
Well, you don't do the. I don't think you take a week off for the SNP, but I think it's 3 weeks off is the important thing. You could cancel it, and if that's what Parliament wants to do, that's fine. But you've got to have something to do in that time. I mean, going back to a famous occasion when Parliament was going to be prorogued a few years ago. For some weeks, and there was a bit of a court case about that you might remember. When eventually the prorogation was cancelled, Parliament didn't have anything to do and did nothing for the next few weeks at all. So, they've got to have something to do. And what Parliament does is it legislates. So the point is there's got to be legislation. Now, a lot of what the government to make it worthwhile, a lot of what the government has to do in order to address the current crisis and difficulties doesn't necessarily require legislation. So if you want to say Parliament's got to come back, fine, but there's no point doing it just for show. You have to have something
it's not just for show.
There has to be a need for new legislation.
You've got a slate of legislation that was passed on the 28th of April that got royal assent that day. We haven't seen the secondary legislation laid, so we don't know the details yet of some of that.
Yeah.
You've also got a lot of legislation that was announced in the Queen's speech, which again should be brought back to Parliament. I've been working on the online safety bill. That's now gone to the back burner. There are important bits of legislation that are now in limbo.
Well, the online safety bill belongs in limbo because it's a very, very bad bill, and I'm delighted the government.
I disagree. But
I'm delighted the government has said they're going to push it back. I don't know what they're going to do with it. And eventually it'll reappear in front of us, or not, as the case may be. But you've got to have something for them to do. I think we're
They have to debate how you tackle the cost of living crisis. There's got to be debates about that.